Hello students and friends. Welcome to Homeopathy Medicines. Today in this homeopathic Materia Medica lesson, I will discuss about homeopathic medicine Nitricum Acidum. Before starting this video, please subscribe to this channel for Learn Homeopathy Online Free and Homeopathy Materia Medica. We need support from you to make this channel more beautiful and more informative. Now going to discuss about Nitricum Acidum, its uses and symptoms. Selects for its special seat of action the outlets of the body where the mucous membrane and skin meet, these pain as from splinters. Sticking pains. Marked improvement of all symptoms while riding in a carriage. Acts best on the dark complexioned and past middle life. Syphilis, after abuse of mercury. Pains appear and disappear quickly, bell. Hydrogenoid constitution. Psychotic remedy. Blisters and ulcers in mouth, tongue, genitals, bleed easily. Fissures, with pain during stool, as if rectum were torn. All discharge is very offensive, especially urine, feces, and perspiration. Persons who have chronic diseases, and take cold easily and disposed to diarrhea. Excessive physical irritability. Cachexia, due to syphilis, scrofula, intermittent fever with liver involvement and anemia, etc. Gravel, arthritis. Capillary bleeding after curettage. Mind, irritable, hateful, vindictive, headstrong. Hopeless despair. Sensitive to noise, pain, touch, jar. Fear of death. Head, sensation of a band around head. Headache from pressure of hat, full feeling, worse from street noises. Hair falls out. Scalp sensitive. Ears, difficult hearing, better by riding in carriage or train. Very sensitive to noise, as the rattle of wagons over pavements, cough, knocks. Cracking in ears when chewing. Eyes, double vision, sharp, sticking pains. Ulceration of cornea. Gonorrhea, ophthalmia, photophobia, constant lacrimation. Syphilitic iritis. Nose, ozana. Green casts from nose every morning. Coryza, with sore and bleeding nostrils. Tip red. Stitches, as of a splinter in nose. Caries of mastoid. Nosebleed, with chest affections. Chronic nasal catarrh, with yellow, offensive, corrosive discharge. Nasal diphtheria, with watery and exceedingly excoriating discharge. Mouth, putrid breath. Salivation. Bleeding of gums. Painful pimples on the sides of the tongue. Tongue clean, red and wet with center furrow. Teeth become loose, gums soft and spongy. Ulcers in soft palate, with sharp, splinter-like pains. Salivation and fetor oris. Bloody saliva. Throat, dry. Pain into ears. Hawks mucus constantly. White patches and sharp points, as from splinters, on swallowing. Stomach, great hunger, with sweetish taste. Longing for indigestible things, chalk, earth, etc. Pain in cardiac orifice. Dyspepsia with excessive oxalic acid, uric acid and phosphates in urine and great mental depression. Loves fat and salt, sulf. Abdomen, great straining, but little passes, rectum feels torn. Bowels constipated, with fissures in rectum. Tearing pains during stools. Violent cutting pains after stools, lasting for hours, radon. Hemorrhages from bowels, profuse, bright. Prolapses and hemorrhoids, bleed easily. Diarrhea, slimy and offensive. After stools, irritable and exhausted. Colic relieved from tightening clothes. Jaundice, aching in liver. Urine, scanty, dark, offensive. Smells like horse's urine. Cold on passing. Burning and stinging. Urine bloody and albuminous. Alternation of cloudy, phosphatic urine with profuse urinary secretion in old prostatic cases. Male, soreness and burning in glands and beneath prepuce. Ulcers, burn and sting, exude, offensive matter. Female, external parts sore, with ulcers, hep, merc, thuja. Leucorrhea, brown, flesh-colored, watery, or stringy, offensive. Hair on genitals falls out, natrem, zinc. Uterine hemorrhages. Menses early, profuse, like muddy water, with pain in back, hips and thighs. Stitches through vagina. Metorrhagia after parturition. Respiratory, hoarseness. Aphonia, with dry hacking cough, from tickling in larynx and pit of stomach. Soreness at lower end of sternum. Short breath on going upstairs, Rs, calc. Cough during sleep, Cham. Extremities, fetid foot sweat, causing soreness of toes, with sticking pain, chilblains on toes. Sweating of palms, hands, cold, blue nails. Offensive sweat in axilla at night. Skin, warts, large jagged, bleed on washing. Ulcers bleed easily, sensitive, splinter-like pains, zigzag, irregular edges, base looks like raw flesh. Exuberant granulations. Black pores on face, papules worse on forehead. Modalities, worse, evening and night, cold climate, and also hot weather. Better, while riding in carriage, reverse, cocculus. Great general weakness, feeble reaction, extreme sensitivity, and nervous trembling, are marked features in this remedy. Patients greatly broken by long suffering, pain and sickness, physical more than mental suffering, finally anemia and emaciation are marked. Sensitive to cold, always chilly. Symptoms are aggravated from becoming cold, and in cold air. Always taking cold. The walls of blood vessels are relaxed and bleed easily, profuse dark blood. Pains as if flesh were torn from the bones and a sensation as though a splinter felt in inflamed parts, in ulcers and in nerves. Inflammation of the periosteum, in bone, and in the nerves. Syphilitic bone pains. Caries of bone, and exostases. The margins of orifices bleed and grow warts. Old scars become painful in cold weather, and when weather changes to cold, pains like splinters. Inflammation of glands after the abuse of mercury in syphilitic subjects. Prolonged suppuration in glands, with no tendency to repair, when there are sticking pains. The discharges are thin, bloody, offensive and excoriating, sometimes a dirty yellowish green. Suppuration where there is no tendency to repair. This is often the case when the patient is syphilitic and has been surcharged with mercury. For suppuration and ulceration in cancerous affections with bloody, watery, offensive discharges and sticking pains. It has often been observed that the patient requiring nitric acid is more subject to diarrhea than constipation. It has cured many complaints in patients who are never so comfortable as when riding in a carriage. Twitching of muscles in all parts of the body. Many complaints are aggravated from a jar, and from noise. Even his pains are aggravated from noise. Nitric acid patients are often extremely sensitive to medicines, especially high potencies. Indeed, they prove every remedy given too high. Fissures form in many places, canthi, corners of the mouth, about the anus, the skin cracks, and all these have the splinter sensation. He finally becomes dropsical, especially in the extremities. Offensiveness is a marked condition of this patient, often putrid odors. The urine smells like that of a horse. Offensive leukorrhea, offensive catarrh, and breath, fetid foot sweat. Strong odors from the body. Too much weight must not be given to the dark, swarthy complexion so often mentioned as the one most likely to need this remedy. Nitric acid will cure blondes as often as brunettes, if the symptoms agree. Prostration of mind. Any effort to reflect on certain things causes the thoughts to vanish. A general indifference to all matters, tired of life, has no enjoyment in anything, aggravated before menses. Mental depression in the evening. Anxiety about his failing health, with fear of death. Anxiety after loss of sleep, vexation and sorrow. He is angered over his own mistakes. Anger with trembling. Obstinate and refuses to be comforted about his misfortune. He is weary of life but fears death. Excitable and weeps. Despair of recovery. Hopelessness. Easily startled, frightened. Starts from fright on falling asleep. Cannot comprehend what is said to him. The whole mental state is better when riding in a carriage. Suffers much from vertigo in the morning, must lie down. His headaches are violent, aggravated from noise of wagons on the paved streets, but often ameliorated from riding in a carriage on a smooth, country road. The noise and jarring increase the pain. Pain as if in a vice from ear to ear. The biparietal syphilitic pain is often cured by this remedy. Pain as though the head were bound up. Painful drawing and head extending to eyes, with nausea. Stitching pains in the head. Hammering pain in the head. Pain in morning on waking, ameliorated after rising, aggravated by a jar, motion and noise, ameliorated riding in a carriage. Heat often ameliorates the head pains and cold aggravates. Wrapping up ameliorates. Pain as if constricted by a tape. Extreme sensitivity of the scalp and skull to combing the hair, and to the hat. The hair falls out in profusion, as in syphilis. Eruption on the scalp with sharp sticking pains as from splinters, moist, itching, offensive eruptions. Caries of bones of skull. Exostases. The eyes have lost their luster, the pupils are dilated, and there is diplopia. There is inflammation of the conjunctiva with acrid tears. Ulceration of the cornea with pricking pain. Iritis with stinging, stitching pain, aggravated at right and changing from warm to cold room or in cold air. Spots on the cornea, intense photophobia, burning, pressure and sensation as though sand in the eyes. Ptosis. Swollen lids, which are hard and burn. Stromal warts on upper lids. Warts that bleed easily, with sensation of sticks. Deafness, ameliorated when riding in a carriage or train. Catarrh of the eustachian tubes. Pulsating in ears. Discharge from ear, fetid, brown, ichorous, purulescent scarlet fever. The auditory canal nearly closed. Swelling of glands about the ear. Caries of the mastoid. Subject to coryza every winter, no sooner does he get over one cold than he has another. The nose is obstructed in the night during sleep. Sneezing in cold air, from every draught, must keep the room very warm. Bad smells in the nose, and the catarrh is offensive to others. Nosebleed mornings and nights. Nasal catarrh, acrid, watery at night, yellow, offensive, excoriating, bloody, brownish, thin-sensed scarlet fever or in mercuriosyphilitic patients. The nose feels as if there were splinters in it. Large crusts from high up in nose. Green crusts blown out every morning. Ulceration high up in nose. Warts form in and about the nostrils. Red, scurfy tip of nose. Crusts form on the wings of the nose. Cracked nose. Deep lines of suffering characterize the nitric acid face. The face is pale, yellow, sallow and sunken. The eyes are sunken. Dark rings about the eyes, mouth and nose. The face is bloated. The lids are tumid in the morning. There are brown spots. Pigmented warty spots on the forehead. The right parotid is large. The skin feels drawn over the face. Crusts and pustules form on the face. Cracking in jaw when chewing. Corners of the mouth cracked, ulcerated and scabby. The lips raw and bleeding. Painful swelling of the submaxillary gland. The expression is anxious, haggard, sickly. Pain in the teeth, tearing, aggravated from cold or warm things. Pulsating evening and night, after mercury. Caries of teeth. Teeth become yellow. Gums bleed easily, scorbutic, swollen. The tongue is excoriated, sore, red, yellow, white and dry, fissured, with sore spots. Ulceration of tongue with viscid mucus in mouth. Inflammation of the tongue. Ulcers in mouth, on tongue or in throat, white, or dark and dirty, putrid, phagedenic, syphilitic, with sticking pains as from splinters. Sore mouth with stinging, burning pain. Excoriated, red, swollen membrane. Foul cadaveric odor from the mouth. Saliva flows from the mouth so acrid that it excoriates the lips. Confusion of the muscular action in throat causes food to stop in throat and choking. Difficult swallowing. Violent pain in throat, extending to ear on swallowing. Sticking in throat like a splinter, heiper, gnat. Alum, arg. N. On swallowing. Viscid mucus in throat. Mucus drawn from posterior nares. Inflammation of throat, tonsils, uvula and soft palate. Uvula and tonsils edematous, apis, rus T. Great swelling of the throat and tonsils. Ulceration of tonsils. It has cured diphtheria where the splinter sensation was present, and the other symptoms agreed. Inflammation of the esophagus. Longing for fats, pungent things, herring, chalk, lime, earth, and aversion to bread and meat. Generally thirstless. The stomach is disordered by milk. Food sours, and causes sour eructations and vomiting. Fats disagree. Nausea after eating, ameliorated by moving about or riding in a carriage. Vomiting bitter and sour, contents of stomach. Ulceration of stomach. Pain in cardiac opening of stomach on swallowing. Sticking pain in stomach. Catarrh of stomach. Weight after eating. Sensation of rawness in stomach after eating. Chronic inflammation of liver. Clay-colored stools. Enormously enlarged liver. Pain in region of liver with jaundice. Stitching pain in liver. Enlarged spleen. Cramping pain in abdomen. Violent pain in ileocecal region, sore and tender, aggravated from motion. Awakened at midnight with a crampy pain in abdomen, chilly, pain aggravated from motion. Rumbling in abdomen. Abdomen distended and tender. Great soreness in abdomen. Inflammation and suppuration of inguinal glands. The relaxed condition in weakly infant boys, that so much disposes to inguinal harina, is often overcome by nitric acid and the henna cured, like, Nux v. Broken down subjects who are disposed to suffer from frequent attacks of diarrhea, or from constipation alternating with diarrhea, often need this remedy when the urine smells strong like that of a horse, and he is pale and sickly, losing flesh and strength, subject to excoriation of orifices and excoriating catarrhs and ulcers. The stool is bloody, putrid, undigested, green, slimy, excoriating, sour, curdled if milk is used as a diet, black putrid blood. In dysentery. Cold changes of the weather bring on diarrhea. Anus excoriated, burning, fissured, covered with warts. Membrane comes with the stool. Much pure blood with the stool not even clotted, very offensive. In effect allergic to stool. Sensation as if rectum were filled and he cannot expel it. Constipation, painful hard difficult stool. Drawing, cutting and pressing before stool, constant fruitless urging, Nux v. During stool there is colic, tenesmus, spasmodic contraction of anus, unsatisfactory straining. Splinters in rectum. After stool there is still urging, murk, exhaustion, soreness of anus, cutting pain, burning and shooting in rectum, constriction of anus, great nervous excitement, palpitation. The pain keeps her in bed for hours after every stool. Itching and burning in anus. Constant acrid moisture about the anus. Periodical bleeding of rectum and pain in sacrum. Fissures of anus. Painful prolapsus of rectum. This has been a most useful remedy in fistula, fissures, condylomata, polypi, caruncles, cancer of the rectum and hemorrhoids when the symptoms agree. It has cured caruncles so sensitive that the patient would cry out when they were touched. Hemorrhoids that are exquisitely painful to touch and at stool, that bleed, external or internal, with burning and sticking during stool. Piles that ulcerate and discharge copiously of blood and pus. When piles are so painful that she breaks out in sweat, becomes anxious, and pulsates all over, on the slightest touch or at stool, this remedy has been useful. Compare Paeonia and staph. Fetid moisture at the anus. The male sexual organs are in a constant state of irritability. Sexual desire is increased and erections troublesome at night. Painful spasmodic erections at night, stitching pain in the urethra and cord D. It has been a useful remedy in gonorrhea when the discharge is thin and bloody, later when it is greenish or yellow, burning and sticking on urination, and the urethra is swollen and very sore. It has cured condylomata which have the splinter sensation, and bleed easily, and extremely sensitive to touch. Condylomata on genitals and around the anus. Inflammation of the prostate gland with gonorrhea, especially when the discharge becomes scanty from taking cold or from strong injections. It cures old cases of glut when the urethra has pain in it like a splinter on touch or when urinating. Prolonged inflammation of the urethra with infiltration, making the urethra feel hard and nodular like a whipcord, ARG. N. Sore spots in the urethra, ulcers, with bloody pus, and the sensation of splinters. Itching in the urethra after gonorrhea, PETR. Pimples, vesicles, herpes and crusts on the prepuce. Small ulcers on the glands or prepuce. Spreading ulcers. The ulcers discharge a brown, bloody water, offensive. Phagedenic ulcers, Rs, AR. M. N. Cost, Merck. C. Inflammation of the prepuce. Ulcers that destroy the frenum. Inflamed and ulcerated parts have the splinter sensation and flow of bloody water. Paraphimosis and phimosis and great swelling. The hair falls off from the pubes. The female is greatly troubled by the constant itching and burning and sexual desire. Excoriation of the parts from leukorrhea and menstrual discharges. Every exertion brings on uterine hemorrhage, calc. The menstrual flow is dark and thick, menses too soon and profuse, like bloody water. Uterine prolapsus. Many and extreme nervous sufferings come during the menstrual period, flatulence, bruised pain in limbs, pain down thighs, splinter under the finger and toenails, palpitation, anxiety, trembling, neuralgic pains in any part. After the menses there comes a muddy, watery flow, lasting many days, and extreme excoriation of the parts. Thin, bloody, excoriating leukorrhea at all times or at any time. The vagina is excoriated and condylomata grow upon the genitalia. Erectile tumors. Caruncles at the orifice of urethra, exquisitely sensitive to touch. The itching is aggravated by cold. The parts are fissured and bleed easily. Many troubles culminate during menses and lactation. Lumps in the mammae. The nipples are fissured and tender, are excoriated and have splinters. Tendency to abortion from general weakness and the ease with which a uterine hemorrhage may set in. Hoarseness, and ulceration of the larynx. Voice lost. Laryngitis in old syphilitic subjects. Oppression of the chest, ameliorated by expectoration. Shortness of breath. Intermittent breathing. The cough is aggravated in winter, yet aggravated in a warm room and from becoming warm. The cough is dry, barking, aggravated during the night, aggravated lying, aggravated before midnight, comes on during sleep. Cough with hectic fever and night sweats. Paroxysmal cough with retching, like whooping cough, violent, racking cough. Hard, prolonged coughing spells with difficult expectoration. The irritation to cough is like a tickling in the larynx. The expectoration is greenish, viscid or thin, dirty, watery, bloody mucus, or dark clotted blood. Loose cough in daytime, dry at night. Rattling in daytime, but the no expectoration. Cough in broken down constitutions, from liver and lung affections, in tubercular subjects. The sputum tastes bitter, sour or salty. It is offensive, even putrid. He is covered with sweat during efforts to expectorate. Stitching in the chest. In typhoid pneumonia, with rattling in the chest, inability to expectorate, or when he can expectorate the sputum is brown and bloody, and the urine smells like that of a horse. In tuberculosis with night sweats and hemoptysis. Palpitation from excitement, on ascending stairs. The pulse is rapid, irregular, and every fourth beat is missed. Swelling of glands of neck and axilla. Stiff neck. Stitching pains in back and chest, burning spots in spine. Pain in back, nights, compelling him to lie on the abdomen. Sharp pains in back and limbs in tabes dorsalis. Sharp pains in back on coughing. Rheumatic pains in limbs. Emaciation of upper arms, and thighs. Weakness of limbs. Dropsy of limbs. Crippled nails. Rheumatic pains in upper limbs. Stitching. Sticking pains in limbs in cold weather. Numbness of arms and hands. Copper-colored spots on arms. Chilblains on hands and fingers. Cold, sweaty hands. Numerous large warts on back of hands. Herpes between the fingers. Vesicles on the tip of the thumb that open into ulcers, felons, distorted and discolored nails. Yellow curved nails, splintered sensation under nails. It is useful in wounds that inflame and have the splinter sensation. Tearing in the long bones of the lower limbs at night. The legs are weary and bruised. Pain in hip as if sprained. Sticking pains along the nerves as from splinters. Syphilitic nodes on the tibia with nightly pains. Chilblains on the feet and toes. Phagedenic blisters on the toes, graph. Extreme soreness of the tibia. Profuse, offensive sweat of feet. Shocks on going to sleep, agar, arg. In, ars, nat. In. The pain comes during sleep. Starting in sleep. Anxious, unrefreshing sleep, with frightful dreams. Nitric acid is a very useful remedy in fevers. The thirstlessness during all stages has often called attention to it. Cold hands and feet. Chronic intermittent in cachectic constitutions, copious night sweats, extreme weakness, with the characteristic odor of the urine, and bleeding from some part of dark blood, this remedy will act well. Thanks for watching this video. If you want more videos like Nitricum Acidum, please subscribe to this channel and press the bell icon. To learn homeopathy course online free with Homeopathy Materia Medica. Comment us your feedback and what you want in the next video. Like and share this video with your friends and family. For paid and free consultancy online, visit homeopathymedicines.com and mashclinic.com. Thank you. Have a nice day. Stay healthy, stay happy.